This podcast provides information to help esports professionals identify and approach legal problems. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. Legal information is not the same as legal advice, which is an application of law to a party's specific set of circumstances.
You should not and are not authorized to use this podcast as a source of legal advice. And the information in this podcast does not create an attorney-client relationship between the Law of Esports podcast, any of the lawyers or affiliates of the podcast, and any consumer of this podcast.
Welcome to the Law of Esports podcast, the number one podcast that discusses legal issues as they relate to the world of esports. My name is Jake Hicks, and I'm an attorney that represents teams, leagues, and organizations.
And my name is Nefi Lopez, and I'm an attorney that represents players, streamers, and personalities.
And today we have a fantastic episode, another in our series of Pro Ops episodes. I keep on saying episodes where we have professionals from the esports industry. Sometimes they're players. Sometimes they make up part of the other 95% of esports jobs that keep the ecosystem alive. And today we are super excited because we have the legendary Mr. Corey Davis, a.k.a. Crone, a.k.a. CDL Intel on Twitter, a.k.a. the man that doesn't miss. Mr. Davis, it's a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much. We've been following your Twitter for a very long time. It's been a source of information for not only esports professionals, but just Call of Duty fans in general. And so we're so happy. Thank you so much for joining us, man.
It's a pleasure to be here, man. I feel a little bit underdressed compared to you two, but but I guess you guys are the legal side of things. So
yeah, we got to pretend like like we're business guys, but in reality, it'd be a lot more comfortable to be wearing what you're wearing. So
I rolled out of bed in this. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, exactly. Cool, well, man. Welcome, man. Thank you so much for joining us again, and we're really happy to have you on. And we're just really happy to give you the opportunity to talk about yourself, because we know most of your career is spent talking about and reporting on the news that's happening to other people. So while we're grateful for that, we're super interested to hear what you have to say.
Man, like I said, it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm here to answer some questions and cool. Have a little chat with you guys. Can't wait.
Nice. So let's get started with just a little bit of background information from you, man. I feel like you like to talk about others and you don't really talk about yourself enough. So let's use this as a prime opportunity for people to get to know Corey Davis, aka Crone. So why don't you tell us a little bit about where you're from?
I'm from New Zealand, if you couldn't tell from the accent, which is a little tiny country just below Australia. Not the same, different. But I'm from New Zealand. I'm a father of two. I'm 31 years old. I don't want to sound like a dating show or anything, but that's me. I have a Twitter account with, almost quarter of 1,000,000 followers, only for CDL, which is the Call of Duty Esports League. I started it 2018 in August, I think it was, and I just blew up. It just blew up, and I became who I am today. And obviously, we can talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah, no, man. And so before 2018, were you still into esports?
I was just watching it. I wasn't anyone. No one knew. I was just a random fan. That was it. But I would definitely watch Call of Duty. I watched a little bit of Overwatch League as well. But I think I don't know when that kicked off. I think maybe 2018.
Yeah,
but yeah, just Call of Duty and Overwatch is the only ones I've ever watched.
Nice. So in 2018, you're clearly, consuming as a watcher, as a viewer. What clicked? What made you say, you know what, I should probably start a Twitter and start talking about, breaking news, things like that? What happened?
Well, it's a long story. I'll try to explain it as detailed as I can, because I know a lot of people watching probably don't follow CDL. But so there was a guy on Reddit. He was leaking rosters. His name was Cold Burner. Right, so he was only leaking rosters on Reddit. So for me, I never went on Reddit before that, and I hated Reddit. I couldn't stand like the layout of Reddit, and I knew that I wasn't the only one that didn't want to go on Reddit to read what this guy was saying. So I was like, look, I'll take one for the team, for the community, and I'll make a Twitter account and I'll put what he's putting on Reddit onto Twitter, because Twitter's like the biggest app for
right.
Call of Duty esports. Yep. So I essentially just copy and paste what he was saying on Reddit and put it on Twitter. And I told people, I'm not him. I'm just helping you guys out. And it just blew up, like in 2 weeks, I had like 10,000 followers. It was,
Dang. And
then it just snowballed. And now, I'm almost at $250,000 4 years later. It's crazy. It was insane. It was an accident. Like I wasn't trying to be anyone. I wasn't trying to be a journalist or become anything or, make money from this. It was just having fun. Thought I would help people out and take what was on Reddit onto Twitter, because I knew people didn't go on Reddit. They were like me.
Okay. And so before we talk about the CDL intel, let's talk a little bit more about what you now. I know, before we started recording, we were talking a little bit about what you do, whenever you're not, tweeting, and you said you play Call of Duty. Is that what got you into the esports? Was it the games, playing it originally, and then you started watching, the professional guys play?
Yeah. So the first Call of Duty I brought was Black Ops 3, which is considered to be pretty late into the. Yeah. A lot of people started playing when it was Black Ops 2, Black Ops 1, Modern Warfare 1, but I came in at Black Ops 3. I think I was 25 years old. The reason I got Call of Duty that late is because when I turned 25, my entire life I had really, really bad teeth, like really unstraight teeth. They're fine now, because when I was 25, I decided, okay, I'm going to fix my teeth. But the only way to do that is to stop going out and spending all my money, on alcohol and going out and just spending all my money at the bar. So I said to myself, okay, I'm going to buy a PS4. My friends play Call of Duty, so I'm going to buy Black Ops 3. And then that's what I did. I came home one weekend and I still had like $700 left. So I was like, fuck it, I'll do it. I'll start now. And I went and bought a PS4. I bought Black Ops 3. I got so addicted. I told myself, okay, I'm just going to lock myself in my room and get addicted to Call of Duty. And that's exactly what happened. I played Black Ops 3 for like 3 years. I was like a kid. When you're a kid and you come home from school, you want to play it straight away until you go to sleep. I was like that, but I was a 25-year-old man. I was coming home from work at 5 o'clock.
That's
playing
awesome,
Call of Duty until like 1 in the morning. Like I kind of did it backwards. I found gaming when I was old instead of when I was,
whenever you were younger.
Yeah, so that's how I got into Call of Duty. But it took me about 2 years of playing Black Ops 3 to really get into like the esports side of things. Okay. That was probably, I think, 2 years later. I saw Optic Gaming win champs in Infinite Warfare, which I think was 2018 maybe.
Yeah,
17 or 18. I can't remember.
Yeah. So I started in 2015 when Black Ops 3 came out. But that's how it happened, and who would have thought me wanting to fix my teeth would turn into this? It's crazy to think about.
I know, and it's crazy to hear when you say it out loud.
Well, and look, man, your teeth look good. The CDL Twitter's popping off. It's all coming together for you, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when you first started watching competitive COD, did you have like a favorite team that you would follow?
Yeah, so it was Optic. I think like most people, it was Optic. I would say 80% of COD fans, if it didn't start off as Optic, it probably is now. But yeah, it was definitely Optic. They when I saw them win champs in Infinite Warfare, that was when I was like, yo, like this shit's cool.
These guys are the real deal,
yeah. That's what really flicked the switch. When I saw them win, I was like, man, I want to keep watching this. And I spent that entire off season of Infinite Warfare to World War II, learning as much as I can. And then I watched World War II, and then after World War II, that's when I made the Twitter, and I kind of just became this big person in that esports realm.
And you read my mind, Jake. The question that I was going to ask is, what team was it that got you in? And clearly it was Optic. But let me ask you this, because I'm sure the guy's going to like to hear their name. What player was your favorite at the time, and that really you said, man, I really like this guy, and I'm going to follow this guy? Who was it?
It was Scump and Formal, I think.
Scump,
like I said before, if you're a fan of COD, you're probably a fan of those two, especially Scump. In my opinion, one of the biggest esports players of all time.
Yeah. No, and I agree with you. And I agree with you because he was also one of my first favorite players ever, Scumpy. And if you're listening, dude, hopefully he wants to hear your story and he hears you, give him a shout out. So let's say if Scumpy's watching this, man, would you have a message for him? Because we get some exposure, so it's possible that he may watch this.
You're the man, bro. In my opinion, you're the GOAT. In my opinion, I know there's probably about 3 people that could be the Call of Duty GOAT, but I think he's one of the greatest.
There you go. You heard it here first. No, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. So you turned, you were taking stuff from Reddit, you were putting it on Twitter. Did that guy Burns from Reddit ever, call you out and say, hey, what the hell you're taking what I'm putting it up, you're putting it on Twitter?
No, he actually liked it. He was like, no, keep doing it. And we actually started DMing, and he was helping me with things, and he wanted me to put it out there because he was trying to, long story short, he was trying to push the agenda into the community. So he saw me and he's like, yeah, like I want you to help me push that agenda.
Okay. And what was that agenda?
There was a time where Optic Gaming were breaking up, and he wanted to grab 2 of those players and make a super team. So he was trying to push them to break up, and obviously I was kind of a pawn in that. But I came out of it in the end, and he's long gone these days.
Okay, yeah. That's interesting. Do you know what the super team he wanted to make?
Off the top of my head, I think it was Scump. I think Formal, John, and it was someone else. I can't remember. It's on the internet somewhere. I just can't remember. It was a long time ago. But yeah, he was trying to pick up these really, really great players from each team and make a super team. This was when Optic was, I think they were going through the thing with Immortals or Infinite, or I don't know if you guys remember that. Yeah, so there was kind of like a rough patch in Optic, and he saw that as a opportunity and tried
to.
Yeah.
Well, then that was also going into Black Ops 4, right? Or Black Ops 4, because because we were going into 5-man rosters, I think.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah. So no, you're right. So there would have been someone else. I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, nice. 5-man rosters was a wild time.
It was.
Yeah, dude.
Crazy. So as you're putting together the Twitter and everything and doing these roster releases or leaks, what made you choose CDL Intel?
Well, I actually started off as COD Burner Intel because it was the COD Burner was the guy on Reddit. So I started as that, and then I kind of 6 months later, I started posting clips and stats and all types of other things that weren't like COD Burner stuff. So I changed to CWL Intel. And then obviously when we transferred to CDL, I changed it to CDL Intel. But I don't really have a reason. I had a list of things I was going to change to when I changed from COD Burner Intel. And one of them was actually the Kardashians, because there's so much drama in Call of Duty, and that was one of them on the top 5 or what I was going to change to. But I don't really have a reason why. I just kind of picked it, and I think that I took the Intel thing from Deserto, or maybe Charlie Intel. I think I got it from there, and then I just kind of ran with it.
Nice.
And still use it to this day.
And did you at what point did you kind of grow out of Burns? When did you start? I know you said you started posting clips and other things of that nature. Did it get to the point where you no longer needed Burns because you had your own, connections that would, people that would leak you information and give you information, or did you continue using him, and do you still use him?
No. I mean, he left probably 3 years ago, but 6 months in, that's when I changed because I was posting other things. Because the thing with him was he was only around for roster changes, which is obviously it's not every week. It's once every couple of months. And then he dug Sensor Mud and actually exposed them on Reddit. Not on Reddit, sorry, on YouTube. He made a YouTube video about it. But that was probably 3 years ago. And I slowly just built my own sources and people started to trust me. And then, I just started doing my own thing. And I never intended to be like a journalist or like a leaker. And I never really wanted to. It just happened. It was an accident.
And so, and you kind of started a trend, right? Because obviously we have you reporting on CDL news. We've got Hayden, who's a friend of the show and was on the show previously doing, Halo. And he told us that, I think he started his, what did he say, Jake, last year, I think in 2021.
Yeah.
Which was, which is pretty new. And I apologize ahead of time if you're watching this, but I haven't seen there be the same thing for other esports. There's obviously, League of Legends, CSGO, Overwatch, a lot of other big esports. I haven't really seen this what you do and what Hayden does for those leagues. And correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know do you know of any other guys that are doing this as well?
I think there's one in Rocket League. I don't know what it's called.
Okay.
Here it is, because I've spoken to the guy before, because he pretty much said he made it to like, he wanted it to be like my page.
Yeah.
But in terms of the bigger ones, I don't think they really need them. Like CSGO has like actual proper journalist leakers. And so does Valorant. But the thing with mine is I don't just do leaks. I cover like everything about the league. With anything that happens.
Team drama and stuff like that, which I think is the juicier stuff that we like to hear.
Well, have you seen like some of these beat reporters getting bigger, like reporters that just cover one team or one org? Like I think there's one for Optic right now. Sean Collins.
Yeah, he's good too.
Who just covers I
haven't seen that blow up or anything. Like he's probably like the only. Because it's kind of like a thing in sports, right? Like they have, I'm a big Chicago Bulls fan, so there's like Chicago Bulls reporters. They just do Chicago Bulls, which I think is good, and I think it should be a little bit bigger than it is. I don't know anyone else that does it though. There's probably more out there, but like I said, I only follow Call of Duty, and there's only one in Call of Duty, which is Sean, and he's really, really good.
Do you see that growing in Call of Duty, or do you think that reporting on the league, do you think league-wide reporting is probably going to stay more popular than team-specific reporting?
I think it could get a little. I could see a team like Rocker, like maybe doing something like that too, like getting someone, because I think Sean actually works for EMV or Optic. I think.
So I think I've seen him he reports for the Dallas Morning News.
I was going to say, I think he's with the local news.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah, and then
just assigned to Envy and everything.
Exactly. And he posted a tweet, because we follow him on Twitter, and because the whole Envy to Optic name change, we're going to talk about that in a little bit and get your thoughts on that. But I read one of his tweets where he basically said, like, if it wasn't for the relationship of Envy, allowing him to have like those post game conversations and to report those things, he wouldn't have been able to have the career that he has now. And so I think he works for the Dallas Morning News or the Dallas Daily News, something like that.
I think Dallas Morning News. Yeah.
And I apologize ahead of time if you're watching this. That I don't know that off the top of my head, but I think that also goes a long way with teams giving certain people the access to certain information or the players. Whenever we went to the Optic Major 1, they kind of ran things in a bubble where we were there as invited guests, but really our main role was to be there as media and talk about the event and get to talk to the players. But we didn't get a chance to talk to the players because they were in a bubble, which is fine, right? It's for health reasons with COVID. You don't want to have anybody come in contact with these guys. You want to make sure that they're, sort of shielded from folks that may potentially be carrying the virus. But, having more teams be open to allow guys like yourself or guys like Sean and guys like Hayden for Halo access to these guys, I think that would really help the scene, and because it gives you guys something to talk about and gives really an insider scoop on what's going on and why somebody did something during a match or how they're feeling after a match and it's you don't see it as much, and I think it would definitely help the scene a little bit, or maybe what are your thoughts? What do you think are some of the content that you put out that kind of gets the most views or the most listens?
To go to the what you were saying, the Call of Duty does do like after match press conferences, I think it is. Now I think they're really good, and I think more people should be posting about these. But obviously, I don't have access to it because I'm in New Zealand. But the Pseudo post a lot of them. Like I think they have access to them. Another place called The Rotation, which is like an up and coming place in Call of Duty. But I think they're good, and I think you get to see a little bit or more of the player's personality. Like I saw one from Sib and Pred, and I thought it was incredible. And I think it should be a little more bigger. Yeah, I know the CDL wants us to go like the sports route and be like a sporting franchise in esports. So I think they should do a little bit more, and I think the league should even post the interviews or go live maybe on Twitter and do them.
Have you had any pushback from the league and the stuff that you post and the access that you have?
No, like I've never. The league has barely acknowledged me, if I'm being honest. Like I had. Obviously, I'm probably a little bit of a pain in their ass, but I had one person from the league contact me once, and they said they like what I do, and they send me some stuff, some codes for some skins. But other than that, like, they just kind of ignore me, to be honest. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Well, so what about I mean, I'm sure you're on their radar, even if they don't expressly 100%. Acknowledge it. You're definitely on their radar. I mean, you're the man in the space. Speaking of, so Zuma the other day was talking about some issues with Illy and Pro Loot coming back from Canada that you have posted about, or Pro Loot flying to Texas. And he said that CDL is the man that doesn't miss. That's why I introduced you that way. If CDL Intel,
I saw that.
How'd that make you feel, man, when Zuma's calling you out on being the accurate man in the space?
Man, it never gets old. Like, I'm always clipping things and sending it to my friends in real life, because my friends in real life don't follow esports. They don't know shit. Yeah. But I send them.
Sounds like our friends.
And I'm like, nah, I promise you, bro. Like, I'm the man in this scene. Like, I'm the man. And they're like, man, I don't know who the guy is, but that's cool, And I'm always sending them clips of people saying, man, Crone's the man, CDL Intel's the man. And it never gets old. Like, I always try to stay humble, and I try not to be cocky and think that I'm the best. But it was nice to see that. And I posted that on my Instagram story to my personal friends.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, dude, you've got almost 250,000 followers. I mean, on Twitter, that's not a small feat, dude. We don't have nearly as many followers. Our podcast is relatively new. And so we're garnering that attention, but dude, that's a big deal, man. And you're verified. I mean, you're the real deal. And, if your friends are listening to this, which I hope they will, to support you, if you guys, Corey's a real deal, guys. Just, give you a little bit of validation if it means anything. And we're lawyers, so our opinion matters, right? I'm just kidding. No, but no, man, it's amazing the things that you've been able to do. And so now there's sort of that point, and I know Jake is like a Call of Duty super fan, and I'm also a big fan, but like, I'm more into Halo and Gears. Jake is really into Call of Duty, and he knows his stuff.
That's true.
So I know he's going to have very specific questions, but let me ask you on a broader sense. You obviously transitioned into journalism at some point where you were an insider. How did that happen? Were you just posting content, and did like the media outlets approach you, or how did it turn into like a money making thing for you?
So about 2.5 to 3 years in, I decided, man, I was not making money from it. I was, I make a few money, I get a few deals here and there, but it wasn't much. Like, really wasn't much. First 2 years, I probably made nothing. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I think I had like 150,000 followers. I wasn't like really at the start. I didn't care about money. Like, I really didn't care. And then once it became like, okay, look, I've spent so much time on this, like, I should probably try and monetize it. Yeah. So I decided, okay, I'm going to start writing articles, and I hadn't written an article in my life since school. I didn't even finish high school. Like, I dropped out. But so I contacted a few places. I think it was Deserto was one, Esports was the other, and Esports straight away like, yeah, we can. It's like, we'll sign you as a freelancer, so they'll pay me per article. And I think at the start they were kind of skeptical for good reasons, because I had never written an article in my life. I'd only tweeted. And, once I started writing them, and then they saw the clicks, they were like, oh shit, like, keep writing, bro. Like, do as much as you want.
You're driving traffic, yeah.
Yeah, and then I did that for about a year, and then I got an offer from a place that you guys might have heard of called Upcomer. You guys heard of that? Yeah. So that place offered me like a pretty good deal, like a deal that I would be absolutely idiotic to take. Mm-hmm. And so I told Esports, I was like, look, I'm probably going to leave. So the places offer me like a lot of money. And they're like, no. Whatever they're offering you, we'll offer that back, and you're staying here. And I was like, that's fine by me. Because I love, I don't work there anymore, and they let me go, but I have nothing but love for Esports, incredible people. So I worked there. So I left my job. I was actually in my job for 10 years prior to starting full-time. What month were we in? 7 months ago? Mm. Yeah. So I was at my job for 10 years, and I was, juggling this Twitter thing and writing articles, full-time job. Yeah. Plus I was obviously a dad, and, I got to be a partner and a friend and everything else in between. Yeah. So I left my job in the end of last year, December.
Okay.
And I worked for Doi Sports for six months, and then they let me go just out of the blue. I think they, I don't know too much details of why, but they pretty much just in an email they said, "Look, we're downsizing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you're one of the people that we're going to let go," and they let go a few people at the same time.
Yeah.
But like I said, like I have nothing but love for Doi Sports.
Yeah. No, and it's sad to hear whenever that happens. It's happening a lot right now. I mean, you saw it happen with G Fuel. It might be like a sort of an anticipation of a potential recession, like just global.
Yeah, definitely.
But and obviously we don't want to speculate as to any of their reasoning. I think it's a mistake on their part because I mean, dude, you drive clicks, man. I mean, that your interaction on Twitter is insane. So if there's any guy, and we're obviously we've got people, all kinds of people listening to us. And so, if it makes you feel any better, I think you're a catch for any of these, news organizations that are either up and coming or already established like Deserto, to have somebody like you, because it's kind of crazy because now people like you, and that's a wild thing about esports. Like people rely on people like you and Hayden and other esports journalists for their news. And people, a lot of people will read an article, but they won't read the whole article. They'll read the headline and they'll move on, or they'll read part of it, get whatever information they feel is enough, and then they'll move on. But Twitter, you've got a cap on how many letters you can put in there, and so I think it's perfect because people get the information they need and they read it in a couple seconds and then they move on with their day. Like in the morning, whenever I wake up, and I know Jake does the same thing. I open up Twitter. It's one of the first things, and I see what's going on today. And I check a handful of websites to see what's going on. And you're one of those guys, right? We want to know what's going on in Halo. We want to know what's going on in Call of Duty. We want to know what's going on in Valorant, CS:GO. And that's your quickest method of getting information. And so,
well, and also I think Twitter journalism is hard because, as Neffy and I have realized, trying to be more active on Twitter, it's hard to convey all the information we'd like to convey in a single post.
Yeah, like 180 characters or whatever it is.
Exactly.
It is tough. It is tough.
So, and I'm looking at your pin tweet from June 24th, and you got it nailed down, dude. It's CDL, Intel, MVP ladder, same top three, different order. 3 finals appearances are enough to push Cellian back to the number 1 position. Pred and Sim both make their way onto the ladder. Simp and Scump remain consistent, and the bottom 3 can change at any point. Done. Like,
and it's funny.
That's solid, bro.
Yeah, and it's funny because that's the opposite of what actual journalism. In journalism, they want you to write articles where you get in details and you do
word
you gotta have to do the opposite. Exactly.
Yeah.
On Twitter, you just gotta get straight to the point.
Get to the point.
I found all my followers is they don't like reading. Like people don't like reading. They want to read as least as they can to get the information. So that's what I try to do. Like I don't try, waffle on for a long time. Straight to the point, and then that's how you build a following. Because people are like, okay, this guy, he just tells me what I want to know. He doesn't tell me all the extra BS and everything else.
Exactly.
That's how you grow your foundation.
Now, let me ask you this, and you haven't just gone out and said it, and it's okay if you don't want to. But what were you doing for 10 years before you decided to go full-time content creation?
So I was working at a car dealership, and I was cleaning cars. Like it wasn't a career or anything. It was something that I picked up. I worked for one of my best friends and his dad, and I kind of was only meant to be there for like a year and a half. I just came out of studying graphic design, which I also failed, by the way.
It's hard, dude.
Yeah, and I was only meant to stay there for like a year or two, and then I just got comfortable, and then but the point came where my partner got pregnant, and I was like, okay, I need a better job, but I also have the CDL Intel thing where it's like, this could be like my avenue out. So I stayed there for like another 3 years, and I'm unemployed now, so I could end up going back there. Who knows? But that's what I did. I was cleaning cars. I was like a car groomer, and it was an easy job. I could go on my phone and kind of just worked. It worked.
Take a break and tweet. I guess is the flexibility that you had.
Yeah.
And that's crazy, man. One of the criticisms that I have of esports is it's incredibly difficult to monetize, right? Like Jake and I, we put in a lot of time into this podcast and putting out this information. But we've learned it's hard to make any money doing this stuff because everything is online. A lot of the people that are involved do it because they're passionate about it. And so like you were doing this stuff for years for free, not because you were hoping to get any money, but because you loved what you were doing so much that you were willing to do it for free. Yeah. And that's, I mean, apart from Jake's and I legal careers, you know, if I wasn't getting paid, and we're not getting paid to necessarily to put out these episodes, but we do it because we're passionate about it. And it's kind of sad because it puts people like you that are so important to the ecosystem in a place where you're like having to, you know, look for opportunities in order for you to be able to make a living out of it. And that's why I like Twitter. You know, one of the things I like about Twitter, and for all of your listeners, everybody that's listening to this and follows CDL Intel on Twitter, you know, they created this awesome program called Super Follows, where it's almost like a subscription, right? CDL Intel, Corey is not, you know, on necessarily like streaming on Twitch all the time where you can sub, but you can do a super follow, and you're set up with that program, right? You've got super follow.
Nah, I'm not yet, but I'm like, I want to. I've been wanting it for like a year. I'm like, you know, if I could make a couple $100,000 from that a month, you know, that would help a lot.
And that's what I'm saying. I mean, people like Jake Lucky, you know, and I think, I mean, you're big enough, you should be able to qualify for super follows, where it's like a subscription service where people can pay a couple, you know, like $3 or $5, something like that a month. I mean, dude, you multiply that by, you know, 1,000 followers and you're making pretty good money.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, and you don't really have to do anything different. You just have to continue to put, you're on top of it. I mean, this is basically your full-time job. And, you know, I would recommend you look into that. And once you set it up, you know, obviously let us know, but, so we can blast it out. But I mean, if you guys are hearing it first, you know, support Corey and his, you know, what he does, because we need you, dude, and we don't want your time to be divided to go somewhere else. So, but anyways, let's kind of change gears a little bit and let's talk about. And by the way, before I do that, do you have any plans? Have you talked to anybody about setting up your like the super follows on your Twitter?
Nah, I kind of they just randomly select people. Like I think there's only like less than 2,000 people that can get it at the moment. It's still in like the beta or the testing or whatever, but I'm honestly hoping it comes before the end of the year, because obviously I'm unemployed right now, so I don't have income.
Yeah. No, and you know what? We'll give you a word. Jake and I, we've got all kinds of contacts, and I have a Twitter contact. We'll see if we can reach out to them and see if they can put you on that program somehow. I don't know what their selection process is. I just know that it's there. Yeah. And so, but anyways, let's not get bogged down on the details. We could talk about that off the show. I'm sure Jake is got a bunch of questions. We were talking earlier about a couple of dramas. So I'm gonna hand off the baton to you, Jake. Kind of let you take over.
Well, so it's like to lead into this, to some of the drama stuff that we want to talk about. I really want to know first. Let's say it's like the beginning of a week, right? After a stage or after a major. How do you plan out the content you're going to post on Twitter like for that week? What's your process?
I don't have a single plan. I literally just wake up every day and I'm like, oh, well, nothing's happened today, so I'll just go find something to post. You know, I'll go find a clip, or I'll go find, you know, some stats or something. I really don't have a plan. I just wing it. Like it's probably not the best way to do it, but you know, it's worked for me for 4 years. I've never planned anything.
Okay. All right. So that
like I have there's obviously like a few things where I'm like, oh, like I'll save this tweet for like when it's a down day or something. But other than that, it's not anything too crazy.
Okay. So lately, and we're recording this podcast on June 28th, 2022. And we love watching CDL. We love Call of Duty. But as attorneys, we're always interested in the organizational side of things. And in that frame of mind, we've been looking at the CDL challenger scene with some of the issues with the new CDL Challengers Champs format.
It's terrible.
Have you got a chance to take a look at that?
Yeah, it's pretty bad, bro. Like, I don't know. They obviously have a reason for it, because they don't just make stupid decisions for no reason. It's obviously like a funding issue, or not enough people care about it, so they're not going to make. I'm pretty sure they make no money from challenges, no profit from challenges at all. They just pour a lot of money into it. But it's terrible, like you can't. So for those of you that don't follow Call of Duty, it's like they have a champs for the main team, the pro teams, which is 8 teams go out of 12. And they're doing the same thing for challenges, where 8 teams go. Challenges is the amateur scene. 8 teams go, but the difference is there's like 300 teams in challenges. So it's like, it's so stupid. And there's the thing with challenges is there's 4 regions. There's Europe, North America, APAC, which is Australia, and Latin America. And it's like you can't just have 8 teams from those 4 regions, you know?
Well, and aren't certain regions locked too? Like where certain regions get a top 8 team no matter what, like the top EU team, top APAC.
I think it's the four teams with the most pro points, which is like you get pro points for wins and for winning tournaments. It's those 4 teams, and then you get 1 team from each region, which is, I mean, in theory, it probably sounds good, but the issue is in APAC, there's only like 5 teams, and only like, well, not 5. There's probably about 20, but there's only like 5 teams that are decent, and then you go to North America, and there's like 20 teams that are decent, and like 300 other teams. So it's kind of like so many people are going to miss out in the North American region. There's so many former pros, and so many people that are so close to being a pro. They're really, really good. A lot of them are better than pros. There's so many people going to miss out, and it's just so sad to see. And I don't think the league is going to change it. And I know that they have reasons, like I said, there's probably a financial reason, a budget issue or something, but it's not. They can do better. They can 100% do better. And there's always been that issue with challenges since it started.
Well, what do you say to people who say, look, there may only be 5 teams in APAC, but we have Pred, who, is now MVP of a tournament. One of the best. From APAC. And how we're going to discover more Preds if we don't give APAC a solid spot and kick out some of the other NA teams that just didn't make top 4 pro points.
I mean, a player, if I'm being truthful, a player like Pred, he doesn't come through every year. He's someone that comes through every couple of years. But there is a lot of talent in APAC, and not only APAC. I think Europe is the one region that's really being brought down by this, because there's a lot of talent in the European region, like so much. And the only people that really get chances in the CDL during the season is North American players because of visa issues. They got to do visas, and teams just can't be bothered with that type of thing. It takes too long. So the off season is when Europe players get picked up, but there's so much talent in Europe. It's absolutely insane. So much. Yeah, and then that's one of the hard things that I think is always there for any sort of international league is how do you get the best talent you can in the most efficient way? And there's always, no matter what, even if it was the top 8 by pro points, then you still might be leaving out some top EU, top APAC who didn't get their points together, or some points just don't get registered, which has happened in the past before in challengers where Game Battles doesn't register points for some reason, So do you think that's going to be a big point? Are you going to continue to cover challengers in addition to CDL, especially as we get closer to champs? Yeah, I always try to cover challenges. I know my following isn't like huge on challenges. They're mostly there for the league, obviously, but I always will, no matter how important, no matter how much people don't care about it, I'll still post it because I think it's good for the scene. I pick and choose carefully like the parts about it that I cover, because I know I don't want to post too much about things that people don't care about, because then people will stop caring about my tweets. I'm always being like quality over quantity. So I try to put out as much things that people care about, so then they do care about my what I tweet. But I will always cover challenges as much as I can.
Do you have like a minimum? Is there so we were talking about our Twitter because we're trying to get our Twitter to have more followers. And to be honest, I have 132 followers and I'm proud of every single one of you bastards. All 132. I love you guys. But do you have like a minimum number of tweets, or do you have whenever you go between clips versus graphics versus just like words and typing and roster leaks and stuff like that? Do you have a minimum number you try and get out every day? Because I know one of the hardest things with news is sometimes you have a really intense news day and you may want to make 25 posts. Sometimes you have a really slow news day and you may want to make 1. How do you balance that between an intense news cycle and a really slow one?
I don't really have any numbers that I try to do or don't do. If there's nothing to post that day, then I just don't post. The thing is that I don't make money from my impressions, so it's like it doesn't matter if I post 30 or if I post 1. So I don't really have I know there's probably not good advice for anyone trying to grow, but I'm at the point where I don't have to try and get impressions for the day or put out tweets. I kind of just, if something happens, I post it, and I think it's worthy of posting, then I post it.
No, I think it's that authenticity that really brings a lot to the table. I was going to say,
Exactly.
You're passionate about it. We're passionate about it. And if it's something that's really interesting, I feel like that's one of the biggest benefits of being so plugged in to like the scene, is that if you care about it, odds are other people will too. You know, it's probably a good gauge of what's out there.
And not just that, Jake and I have, and I know I have spoken to a lot of PR guys, especially like Twitter PR guys, because we're trying to get tips on how to grow our audience. And one of the things is that they advise against is like you said, quantity over quality. If you're posting a bunch, and it's just nonsense, things that people don't care about, it's going to drive away traffic because people are going to, it's going to bog down their timelines. And so, some of the things that we've learned from these PR guys that work really good is, you know, quality content, whatever you're putting at things that are people care about and you know that people are going to care about. And then also threads. For some reason, threads are huge. I don't know if you've heard that before, because there's a cap, you know, people like to read. And right now with all this stuff going on in the US with, you know, the Supreme Court, without getting too political, there's a lot of people putting out threads about what they think, you know, and what it means to them. And a lot of people are liking, I mean, they get hundreds of thousands of retweets and likes. And so if you know, if my advice means anything, I think you're doing it right. You're putting out the right amount of information and you're putting out the information that people care about. I mean, look at it. I mean, just pulling up your Twitter. I mean, dude, you've got, I mean, your interactions, because there's guys out there with hundreds of thousands of followers and they'll post something and you'll see that they've got, 100 likes or 200 likes or none or 5 likes. With you, it's a consistent, hundreds and thousands of likes and interactions, which means that your engagement with your audience is high, which is really hard to obtain on Twitter, which is part of the reason why whenever we and for us as attorneys, we look at it from a different lens from just a regular fan, because fans look at it and they follow it and they care. But we look at the analytics behind it and we're like, dude, your engagement is insane. And so, which is why, whenever I think of a company, what journalists would want to work with you, because you drive views. That's what drives traffic to their page. That's what brings value, is the fact that you get traffic. And so, and that's important. And so is that something that it kind of naturally happened and you learned that, it's better to do quality, or did you was there a point where you were tweeting a bunch and you weren't getting as much engagement?
I guess I kind of just used my initiative. I don't think it's rocket science, but then again, I'm kind of good at it. But my thing was always, and I've always told myself, is when I tweet, and I always mention that people have my notifications on. If I tweet something and someone's at the mall and their phone goes off and they're like, "Oh, CDL Intel tweeted," I want them to be like, "Okay, when he tweets, it's usually something good, so I'm going to open my phone and look at it." But if I'm tweeting, 100 times a day and that's it, I'm like, "Oh, he's just tweeting some shit again. I'm not even going to bother."
Exactly.
And I think for me that's always been my my plan. I always try to think about, okay, once I've seen this tweet, do people really want to read this? Do people really want to watch this clip? Do people really care about what I'm about to post? And there are exceptions, challenges is an exception. I know a lot of people don't care about challenges, but I still do it. But everything else is I feel like I'm pretty on the money most of the time. It's always something people care about.
Okay. And I have to ask this question, and feel free to not answer or tell me you can't talk about it or whatever. But I feel like another reason why so many people are always interested in what you tweet and they want to check that notification as soon as they get it is because of the accuracy of most of your information. So what is your vetting process look like whenever you hear a piece of news or whenever you hear something? Because a lot of times you hear it before anybody else. So how do you vet and make sure that what you're about to tweet is correct?
It's a long process, to be honest, and it's a stressful process. It's not easy. But when I hear something, I'll kind of I'll never tweet anything based on what one person has told me. I always try. That's probably what a lot of leakers do. But I always try, figure out whether it's true. One, whether it's true. Two, if it's actually happening. Because a lot of things okay, this is happening. Okay, but the contract's not signed, so it's kind of a risk for me to tweet it out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But I don't know, man. I feel like I get a lot of times. I wouldn't say I get lucky, but I kind of just. I tweet things and they just happen, and obviously I'm tweeting things knowing that, I've confirmed it with a lot of people and this is what I'm hearing. But, I don't remember the last time that I was wrong about something, not to sound cocky either. And I definitely have been wrong about something and I probably will be wrong about something in the future, but it's a long process of figuring out if something's true and if it's happening, you know, because it might be true, but it might not happen. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you hear something? Do you cross reference with other sources? Do you say, hey,
yeah, as much as I can, yeah.
Okay.
As much as I can, and I try to sit on it for as long as I can, because a lot of times something happened on Monday, and then, you know, by Friday it doesn't happen. So I try to hold on to it for as long as I can, and I'm always, you know, evaluating the scene and see, you know, if they're talking about on the flank, then I'm like, okay, it's probably about time that I put it out there before they put it out there. And, you know, I check Reddit, and, you know, pros talk about get clipped doing things, I'm saying things. So I'm always trying to, like, obviously I want to be first, but I kind of like, I'm to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm not always going to be first. So I'm not always going to be right. You know, it's just up to me to be correct. And that's the most important thing for me, is to be correct.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to put any fake information out there. And I've always, you know, stood on putting like real things out there that are actually going to happen.
And that's a key. You got to be reliable. And that's one of the things that Jake and I are amazed. And that's why Jake asked that question, because you're pretty damn reliable, dude. Whatever information you're putting out is usually accurate. And it probably goes with the fact that you care, right? And it's amazing how much effort you put in, because like I said, at the end of the day, you're not getting rich off of this, but you're still putting in the effort and you're doing it right. And I think that's the key. That's why people trust you, and that's why people follow you.
Thank you.
And so, let's kind of change gears a little bit, right? Because at the end of the day, this is sort of the legal side of a podcast. Now, you know, whenever we talk to Hayden, obviously right now in Halo, there's a lot of drama going on between some of the orgs taking advantage of players, contract disputes. Based on your experience in talking to these players, obviously it happens everywhere where there'll be some contract disputes or there'll be people that are being mistreated. Are there anything that you've learned from doing this? And let's say you have a room full of, you know, rookies, pros, and you want to say, hey guys, these are the main things I want you to keep an eye out for from me getting leaked, hearing about the drama and issues with teams and orgs and players. What are some of the things, if you can just highlight a couple of things, and if you don't have anything, that's perfectly fine. But what are some things you've learned that you can kind of give them a little bit of advice on?
So luckily, and because the league is franchise now, it's a lot more like legit. You know, it's not like the CDL when it was so bad, like people were not getting paid. But now it's not like that. People get paid and all those types of things. But I would say for anyone out there trying to avoid any type of drama legally, maybe get like an agent. I don't know how you guys feel about agents, but I feel like they know a little bit more than the normal. You know, they're gonna, or have a lawyer look over your contract, even if you just do that.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things in contracts that people don't read, you know, and a lot of these kids are like young and signing contracts, and they wouldn't really know left from right, you know, when they see. I remember I've had contracts before in my life, and I'm like, I'm not reading that. I'm just gonna sign it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially whenever they see the dollar signs, whenever they're like, oh shoot, You're going to pay me how much? Or if you see that
contracts, or if it's like 20 pages long, people are like, you know what, I'm not gonna take the time to read it.
Yeah. I mean, if you know, they give you a contract for $50K a year, and it's, you know, $1,000 to have a lawyer look over it, then why wouldn't you? You know,
exactly.
Just to be sure, you know. And even though I said, you know, the franchise league is pretty legit now, but there's still like, you know, some contracts say
it's a business.
If you get benched, you're not going to earn that $10K a month or whatever it is. You know, we're only going to give you half of that. So, you know, you definitely have someone look over the contract, I would say, would be one thing. I don't know if you guys do that, but I would definitely.
No, absolutely. No, we absolutely do.
Yeah.
That's absolutely something that we do. And we recommend everybody. So we'll ditto that.
Yeah, 100%. And what you've seen in like the Call of Duty League or in Call of Duty in general, without naming names, do you have any major complaints with any org or something that an org has done in the past that you can recall?
Most of them are pretty good. I think Toronto Ultra had a few I wouldn't say mishaps, but a few dramas in Modern Warfare, which is 2020, I think, and even last year. I think they had a player that he went home because someone in his family died or something, so he went home to New York, I think.
I remember that. Yeah. Couldn't get back, and
he couldn't get back. And there was another two players that they were benched and they weren't doing anything for the team, and they wanted to go home for whatever reason. That they had good reasons to. and they didn't. I think one was Breck, and they didn't pay him or something. But other than that, it's Toronto. I still respect Toronto Ultra a lot. I think they do things by the book. I don't think they did anything like technically wrong. It's just probably a little bit like ethically wrong.
Yeah.
Well, and I think too that was early on in their life cycle, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that was pretty early, and I think people like you who bring that to the forefront have a big role in making sure that they do stay by the book. So I do think
they had another thing where it's where a player, his name was Kemi, he said a bad word on Twitter basically, and he had to go to like I can't remember what it was. I can't remember what they called it, but he had to go.
Like sensitivity training or whatever.
Yeah,
sensitivity
training. That was it, which I thought was ridiculous.
Well,
the word he said, the word he said. I know you guys are from America, but the word he said is normal where I'm from. And
don't say it. Don't say it.
I always say it. I said it on Twitter like 3 weeks ago, and like if you read the replies, it looks like I said something racist or something. Like
it's the C word, right? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. In America, that's a super offensive word.
Yeah. I know in Europe and Australia and New Zealand, it's normal.
It's a regular word.
Well, and I'll say this: whenever that sensitivity training came down, I thought, all right, Call of Duty players, welcome to the world of big money professional sports, because that's not uncommon in most traditional sports. And now that there's real money in Call of Duty, you're going to start to see sensitivity training. You might see orgs like drug testing. You might see all kinds of stuff now that there's real money in it. So on the flip side, has there been an org that you've been particularly impressed with in the way that they're doing things?
Always Optic. I think Optic always, because I guess they've built their foundation and they're already huge. So there's been a few times where they've just let players walk when they could have sold them. You know, I know Arcides played with Huntsman. I know there's no Optic, but everyone. Follows know that.
I mean, it's practically Optic, yeah.
So so when he left Huntsman on the Modern Warfare off season, Hicks just let him walk. You know, he let him walk straight to FaZe, and they built a super team over there. And other teams are kind of like, I guess they want to make their money back from the contracts, so they're selling players that are 10 times worse than Arcides. But I've always been impressed with the way Optic do, and Envy as well. Obviously, they're the same company now.
Yeah.
But honestly, most of them are pretty decent. Like the only other one I would say is bad is Paris Legion. I guess they didn't do anything wrong. They're just kind of like a bad franchise as a whole. You know.
Well, but they're
not
losing,
legally or anything.
I think we're seeing the last of Paris Legion this year, right? We're getting a Las Vegas team.
Yeah.
They're moving to Vegas. So I think I'm not sure, but I think that's a move to help sell it. You know, because people not many pay. Who out there wants to buy a franchise in Paris? Not that many. It's probably only a handful. But you move to Las Vegas, which is a huge state. City.
Yeah, which it's one of the things that I noticed that whenever that was happening, the president of France actually made like some type of grand announcement that he wanted to invest more into esports. I don't know if you heard about that, which is kind of weird, the timing, how all that, because they like announced that they were going to Vegas, and then the president of France, I don't know, was like, I want to invest more money into esports because it's good. But kind of circling back to the Optic Envy thing, what do you think about that? I want to kind of get your thoughts on that. Do you think it's good, bad? What are your thoughts?
I think most people would have seen this coming just from, all the other teams that transitioned into Optic. I think it's sad, but it's also like bittersweet. It's sad to see the brand go, which is probably a top 3 brand in Call of Duty, and probably in esports is probably like a top 10. But it is sad to see the brand go, but we sacrifice the Envy to get Optic back, which I think Optic is, everyone can agree that's the pillar of Call of Duty in terms of esports orgs.
No, follow up on that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it is, like I said, it's sad, but it's also, it's bittersweet, because those teams are both rivals, if you don't know. They were huge rivals.
Yeah.
For 15 years, almost 15 years. But yeah.
And now Mike and Hex are buddies, are partners now.
Well, they're partners. I feel like they've been buddies for a while, but now they're business partners. All right, so in that same vein, now that we're losing a bunch of the Envy branding and all that, we had already lost the Dallas Empire and that whole franchise. But in your opinion, was the Dallas Empire logo a cool logo or the coolest logo?
I was about to interrupt you before that and say that brand was probably the best brand in the CDL. Like I loved it, like the color scheme, and you know it was like a crown. They were called Dallas Empire. They had a crown. There was actually an envy in the crown. I don't know if you knew that, but it was so clean, and black and gold is just such a good color, and they end up winning. They won champs the first year, which is just like incredible. You know, black and gold, and they come first, and one of the best branding in my opinion.
You're saying black and gold, and you're black and gold out right now. You got your black and gold hat, the black and gold hoodie. For the listeners that can't see, he's wearing all black and gold. Which is a good color scheme, and I'm probably sure that Paris Legion, whenever they move to Vegas, that's probably what they're going to do with the fleur de lis. You know,
probably.
It would make sense. So and to kind of, you know, we're kind of running towards the end of the time. Did you ever run into any like sticky contracts or anything like that in the past that you know, you kind of regret, you know, either participating in, and you don't have to give us any specifics, but just in general, like, hey, you know, I signed this contract once and I dealt with this issue, because contracts is a big thing, especially right now. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to release an episode on it, but you know, do you have anything like that you've experienced yourself?
Nah, not at all. Like to be honest, I've only signed two contracts since I've been in esports. But no, I haven't really had that many issues. There's been a few times where I've like done an ad for a you know, for a company or whatever.
Like a sponsor,
and, yeah, like a sponsor. And I you know, there was no contracts involved, but then there was like, you know, I had to bug them to get payments and things like that. But I did eventually get paid every single time. But I haven't had too many issues yet. You know, hopefully you know, knock on wood. Hopefully I don't have to give you guys a call after this.
yeah.
Well, our line's always open, man. But no. So speaking of events and getting more involved with Call of Duty, do you see yourself coming to any events in person anytime soon?
I want to, man. I really want to. The thing is I have a family. I have 2 kids. I have a partner.
Yeah, it's hard.
My partner just had a baby. We just had a baby 5 months ago.
Oh, congratulations!
So I don't know. Thank you. And I would feel guilty going over there, leaving her here for a week. You know, it's not easy to take care of 2 kids. And then the money issue is another thing. Like, it's not cheap to fly from New Zealand to, man, it's probably like $3 or $4 grand. You know, just probably like $2-3 grand just for flights, and then you know, I have to get accommodation and all the, you know, everything.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
But maybe one day. I was hoping that champs was in the UK and England this year, because my partner's parents actually live there. So I was kind of like, man.
Oh, you would have double whammy then.
Like a family vacation.
Yeah, a family trip.
Yeah. The in-laws watching the babies, you know.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot easier for me to go to the UK from New Zealand than it is the US.
Yeah.
But one day, man. One day, hopefully one day.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's at a minimum, you should be able to go to one of these events at some point, man. I'm telling you, it's, have you ever been to an esports, like a live esports event?
No, I haven't. I've only been to Australia before, and there's not really any esports events here.
That's crazy, man. It's crazy to hear that such a big guy in Call of Duty has never been to a live event, because like I said, the first event that we went to since after COVID was the Optic Major. And because, you know, Optic is in Texas, and I don't know if you knew this, but Jake and I, or Houston, we're in Texas. By the way, if you ever in town, hit us up. We'll take you to paint the town red, dude. We'll take you out, get some drinks. Everything is on us. You don't have to worry about paying for anything. We'll take care of it all.
You pay for my flights, I'll be over there tomorrow.
We'll see if we can work out a deal. But you know, I mean, dude, it's amazing, and I just want to highlight this for everybody listening. And you know, if you've never been to a live event, the energy is wild. Like the Optic Major, and again, we're talking about the pinnacle of Call of Duty whenever we talk about Optic. I mean, those guys are the real deal, and it was amazing. And I hope you get to experience that, you know, soon. And if there's any way that we can help make sure that happens, not costing you anything, you know, we're going to do that. One of the things that, you know, at least I hope everybody that we, that's in our circle, Jake and I are, you know, very, we do our best to help each other out, whether it's, you know, getting some type of deal, whether it's, you know, getting a job, whether it's whatever it is that if there's any way that we can help, we're open books. And that's one of the things that we take pride in, is that, you know, for some reason, whenever people think of lawyers, they seem very inaccessible because they're expensive. We kind of want to get rid of that stigma. We want to be people that people can reach out to. Our DMs are open. If anybody's listening, and I mean, there's a guy not too long ago that shot us a DM. to look at a contract on a small esports org that he started. And, we want to be accessible, and I respond to almost every message that I get. I don't get a ton of them. So I'm sure you probably get a bunch of them all the time. But and I don't know whether you do or not, but we would try to be accessible.
I do.
Yeah, I can imagine. But yeah, man, we want to thank you so much for coming. Jake, do you have any closing notes or closing questions?
No closing questions. Some closing notes, and that's just, we really enjoy what you're doing for the esports space. We think it's a big team effort among all of us to keep the esports ecosystem moving forward, always expanding, always getting better. And we think you're a really big part of that. So we really appreciate you doing what you do and coming on here and joining us, man.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. I was actually saying that I actually had a few, because I put out a tweet when I lost my job, and said that there could be a chance where I could move on, and there's actually a few franchises that reached out like, bro, what could we do? Like, even though you're leaking our teams, like, we appreciate you, we need you here, for the better of the league, we need you around. And it's a good feeling to know that I'm wanted by not only the fans, but the teams that I might be a little bit, I might leak their teams, but they understand that it's the best for the league for me to be around. And, I'm not carrying the scene by any means, but I think there's still, my Twitter page is a pretty big pillar in the community.
100%.
Oh, absolutely,
I agree with
man.
that. And if you ever have any chances to move to Texas, I highly recommend it. Texas, it's the promised land. It's the best place. It's cheap, no state income tax. I recommend you, look into it if at any point you ever decide to make that move. And it's hard because New Zealand is far, dude. I thought about going on vacation on there, and I looked at the flights, and I was like, how long do I have to be on a plane to get there? And it scared me.
It's a long time. Yeah, and I'm like, yes. I'm 6'6", so I'm like, man, I do not want to sit in a plane for 24 hours.
Jeez.
I'm like, hell no.
Yeah, no, man. But
awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, man. If there's anything you ever need, you can always reach out to us. Same thing with everybody listening. If you guys ever have any questions, if you guys have anything you want us to talk about in the future, reach out to us. Follow Crone on Twitter, CDL Intel. And it's funny whenever we say this because you have such a massive following. I mean, we're sitting at, not as many followers, nowhere near as many followers, just a small, tiny fraction of whatever you've got.
Everyone's got to start somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. If you guys aren't following CDL Intel and you care about Call of Duty, even if you don't, you're the man. Follow, Crone, follow CDL Intel, and obviously, feel free to follow us as well. We're the Law of Esports across all platforms: TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. We haven't put out any TikToks yet. I just like to say that to get some followers, but I think we got maybe 2 followers on TikTok. We're working on putting out the short-term videos, and what it's like. It's hard. I mean, we do everything ourselves. So, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And we'll see you guys on the next one.
See you guys.
See ya.